Hello lovely people. Today we'll be looking at a DSP software kind of comparison between Helix and Alpine. So since if you follow my channel, you probably know that the current DSP that I have in my car is a Helix DSP Pro Mark II, and I have two Alpine DSPs, the R500, which is a 5-channel DSP, 6-channel, and 0850X, which is a 12-channel DSP. So since I will be installing the 12-channel DSP in my car, I decided to just have a look and see the differences between these two softwares. So Alpine actually, let's open it. So for both of these DSPs, the software is exactly the same. The only difference is, because it looks the same, identical, the only difference is the number of channels. Yeah, because it looks exactly the same. There's no differences. So I'm gonna close this one, and we're gonna keep only for the 12th channel. And let's open the Helix one. So the Helix DSP, the Mark II Pro, is an older one, so it uses 4.8 PC tool. The newer DSPs like DSP.3 or like Ultra, whatever, those are using the newer 5.0 version. So I will be using the 4.8 because this is what I'm using. If you want to see a kind of comparison between 4.8 and 5.01, write it in the comment. I might do another video for that. So here we have a demo mode, Helix DSP Pro Mark II, that's mine. Let's enter demo. And this is the DSP software, and this is the Alpine. Maximize both. So first of all, let's have a look at the differences, and then we're gonna have a look at the similarities, because the main thing for me is to know, am I losing anything switching, like functionality wise, switching from Helix to Alpine? Am I losing anything? So obviously in Helix you have kind of loads of tabs. You have this, DMC, IO, time, RTA, and everything. In Alpine, that's pretty much it. You don't have anything else. The only other thing is, it's in options, the input mix. So the input is exactly the same like in Helix. So Helix has some extra stuff. If we go here, we have all the stuff with signal management, we have sensitivity, we have priorities and everything else. Me, when I'm using my Helix DSP, I really don't touch anything, because the only thing that I'm using is I'm using a hack module, which is this one, and I don't have anything else. So I don't need the automatic signal detection, I don't need anything. Yeah. With Alpine you have sources, so you can have two sources. You have main source, which you can choose between digital, high level, Bluetooth, or RCA, auxiliary. So my primary is gonna be digital, and then you have a secondary, and secondary is gonna be probably Bluetooth for me, and that's pretty much it. The only thing you can change is main source attenuation, which I really don't know what it is. I will have to look at it when I'm gonna connect stuff to check. But the main thing is just you switching between two sources. With Helix, you have much more options to set priorities and all that stuff. But to be honest, I don't use this. Now here we have some settings that you can change in the actual software. So for example, gain resolution, EQ resolution, enable disable all pass filters and stuff. With Alpine you have no such options, nothing. It's just set, and it is what it is. The other difference is if I go to IO, input output, and here in Helix, in this particular one, I have input equalization. So So I can equalize the input signal that is coming on, for example, high levels or RCAs if you're using, for example, a head unit. And like input delay, you can choose parametric or filters. And this is basically to fix the input signal that you might use, for example, a factory head unit. Yeah. Now, Alpine, again, doesn't have anything like this. And why? If you think about it, what is Alpine known for, apart from Type R subs, is head units, yeah? So it's kind of assumed and given that if you're using Alpine product, you will be using Alpine head unit, and your source is gonna be clean and unmolested. So there's no input EQ, no fixing, no nothing. Now this DSP, the Helix one, this input fixing is kind of basic, because on the newer ones, and for example like Audison DSPs as well, you have automatic input calibration where it takes the signal, you play a file, takes a signal, then it fixes EQ, it fixes phase, it fixes bass roll off, it fixes time alignment, it does everything for you automatically. And those DSPs, like for example the one that was working with Audison Virtuoso, yeah, that is kind of made for factory integration. And obviously Alpine is made for aftermarket. So and the thing is, like, I'm using digital signal from my phone, so this on Helix I never use it because I never used a factory head unit on it, so I kind of don't need it. Now what else? RTA. So Helix has an RTA on 5.0 version. I heard, I haven't checked it, apparently the RTA is very good. It has like auto EQ stuff similar to, I guess, similar to REW. And yeah, but me personally, I don't use it because I use REW separately, so I don't need the RTA that is built into the Helix. And again, Alpine doesn't have anything like it. Let's have a look at other differences. So the main difference in EQ window is going to be all pass. Helix DSPs have all pass filters. Alpine's does not have any all pass filter, just regular EQ, graphical or parametric. So Helix has graphical, which is the fine one, parametric, and all pass. Now with all pass filters, a lot of people are asking like videos about all pass filters, how to use them, blah blah blah. I never used an all pass filter in my system ever, and a lot of people say that all pass filters they're kind of very advanced, and you need to really know what you're doing if you're using all pass filters. But mainly all pass filters are used in input to fix the all pass that is already in the signal. So if you have like a factory head unit that has all pass filters in the head unit applied, you're using like another all pass to counteract that and to have a proper good unmolested signal. But like in my system, in any tunes that I do, I never used an all pass filter. So the all pass filter that is not available in Alpine DSP, for me personally, it's not going to be an issue at all. Now if we have a look at like the main window where we have everything, and what do we need when we tune a system? We need crossovers and we need EQ, and we need to like easily adjust them and switch between everything. So for example in Helix we have crossovers here for every channel. So we have crossovers on the top. We can choose the type of the crossover that we want. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 crossover topologies plus a self-define. In Alpine here we have only 3. So we have Linkwitz-Riley, we have Butterworth, and we have Bezel, and we have all the slopes from 6 dB all the way to 48. And here is the same. If I choose, for example, Bezel, we have from 6 to 42. Do you have 48? Just to 42. So this one goes all the way to 48. So steeper crossover was only 3 topologies for Alpine, and Helix has more. However, I never used Chebyshev when I tuned my system, and I never used the self-defined. The ones that I use, Butterworth bezel and sometimes Linquist Riley. So in that way, I'm not losing anything in the crossovers. You can enable, disable. The crossovers are not fixed, so you can put literally any frequency you want. 551. Yeah, they're not hindered like in which one I was looking at, Audison bit 1, I think, or bit something. Those crossovers were like predefined, so this is exactly the same. Now with Helix, you have to like toggle with this slider between the slopes, whereas in Alpine you just drag and yeah, drop down menu. So it is cool. Now what else? Polarity. Yeah, you can inverse polarity. So the thing that you have with Helix, since you have many tabs, you have kind of functions that you can do in different sections. So for example, if I have this driver selected and I want to mute it, I can mute it here. That's one. Then I can mute it here. That's two. And if I go to time, I can mute it here again. So there's 3 ways how you can mute a driver. In Alpine, it's just one, mute. That's it, mute. So with the Helix DSP, the way you switch between the drivers is here at the top. You choose whichever you want. With Alpine, you just choose these, whichever you want. Yeah, just one by one, and you can mute all of them or one by one. So there's another difference between Helix and Alpine. With Alpine, you cannot select multiple channels. It's just one. You select one, and all the settings you have here is just for one. With Helix, you can select multiple channels, 3. So for example, if you want to do channel gain adjustment, you can do it for all 3 channels that you selected, or like time alignment and stuff. Whereas with Alpine, it's just one channel at the time. Now, speaking about time alignment, let's go to, so with time alignment in Helix, if you have a channel, you can adjust the slider here, which is the time alignment, or you can go to time and you can do all these things here. So you can do delay mode in milliseconds, or you can do distance mode in centimeters. In Alpine, you have here the slider. So you select the channel, whichever you want to work in, and you have a slider to add delay, like milliseconds, or to remove. As well, if you click on this little icon here, it opens a bigger window, and you can do exactly the same here. You can choose, for example, centimeters. You can choose this driver, and let's say 120 centimeters, and it adds that delay. Phase as well, flip the phase. This is so I just discovered something. Okay, so the other difference that I found is in the channel, if you go to channel and the channel gain, so the channel gain, you can adjust it plus minus whatever, and here you can choose the resolution. So let's choose 0.1, the smallest resolution, and here you can adjust the channel gain by that amount, whichever you want. In Alpine, the channel gain is here. So if I choose this channel, for example channel 3, the channel gain is here. And when I was playing with it, I noticed that you can play, so now I'm using arrow keys on the keyboard, and you can see it's in increments of 1 dB. So it goes all the way from minus 60 to plus 6. Helix goes from minus 30 to plus 5. So similar. And I thought that this is going to be a bummer because I think I would need more gradual adjustment, not 1 dB increments, less. However, if I open this one, here at the bottom as well, I have phase and I have the volume, so this is channel gain as well. And I just entered 0.5 and it worked. Let me try to enter 0.1. It works. Okay, minus 0.3. Okay, so minus 2.8. Perfect. So, and actually let's check, this is channel 9. Let me close it, channel 9. It shows minus 3. But here is 2.8. So, yeah, I don't know how it's gonna work. Is it gonna be this value, the exact that I'm entering, or is it gonna be the value that is shown here? I think it should be here, which is a bit surprising because here I would assume that they would put like actual value that you can enter, because if I enter 0.5, it shows 5. Yeah, so we'll see. And the surprising part, I will need to check the channel gain, because it can go all the way up to plus 6, same as Helix can go up to plus 5. And I tested the Helix, and I know that if you have 0 dB signal and you boost it even like plus 1, it starts clipping. So I will need to check this Alpine DSP. Does it clip anything above 0 as well? Or you can go all the way up to plus 6. We will see. And I think these are all the main differences that you have. Now, similarities is like EQ, for example. EQ, we have 30 bands, 31 band of parametric EQ. Exactly the same with Helix. Do I have 30 or 31? Parametric? 30. So 30 bands with Helix and 31 with Alpine. And this, it's a fully parametric EQ, so you can do whatever you want. With Helix, if I choose parametric, I can go from plus 6 to minus 15. Alpine goes plus 12 here at the bottom, and minus 12. Plus 12, minus 12. Now again, frequency, you can choose whichever you want. You can mix and match. You can drop here, here, exactly the same like Helix. You can do whatever you want. Now Q is here at the bottom, Q value. So by default is 1. In Helix, by default, the Q is 4.3, a narrower Q. And the Q goes from 0.5 up to 15. 0.5 to 15. Alpine, let's check. Q goes from 0.4. You can see here 0.4 or 0.4 all the way up to 28.8. So a bit wider selection of Q. But you wouldn't use 28 Q of 28 for, I don't know, I never used that high Q value. But yeah, from 0.4, which is kind of a cool thing. So EQ wise, everything is exactly the same as with Helix. The main difference with EQ is that Helix has an import function, which I was using extensively while tuning my system. It saves so much time when you have to import EQ from REW, because I do my EQ work with REW, and you just import it and it saves all the entering and everything. With Alpine, however, you will have to enter every single band manually. So 200, Q of 1, and let's say minus 5. And then it jumps to the next one, and basically everything you will have to enter manually. Now, good thing is kinda that you have, when you're using an EQ band, you have this little dot. which is like bypass. So if with Helix, if you have all these like EQ all done, the only way to kind of bypass one EQ, you cannot bypass one EQ. You have to bypass all of it, or you have to choose that band and just put it back to 0. If you, for example, testing, if one band, for example, this cut, if it's needed, so you're testing, so you have to go back all the way to 0. With Alpine, you just toggle it, and it disables that specific band. So that's kind of a good thing, because you're not losing the gain value. Because when you work on all the bands, like for this, it was, how much was it? I don't remember. And with this, you just click. So that's kind of a cool thing. And bypass all EQ. So yeah, you can do exactly the same. You can bypass all EQ, restore EQ. Yeah, so it's exactly like this button, bypass all EQ. Now let's have a look at the time alignment, how much we have. Do we have here for time alignment? Nothing. So time alignment, if we choose the delay mode in milliseconds, we have increments of 0.1 millisecond. See, 0.1, 31, 32, 33. So 0.1 millisecond. With Alpine, if we have a look at the milliseconds, let's start from 0. And I'm going to use the keyboard. I'll go up and down. So up, one click, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6. Okay, so Alpine has 0.2 milliseconds resolution, whereas Helix has 0.1. So potentially you can dial in the time alignment a bit better with the Helix. However, that 0.1 or 0.2, I don't know if it's going to be a big difference. Probably I'm going to see when I'm going to tune the car. This is going to be mainly for the tweeters, because for mid-bass drivers or mid-range, 0.1 or 0.2 is not going to be a difference at all. So probably it's not going to be a big massive difference. Now what else can we have a look at? Master volume. So there is no master volume in Helix anywhere. You have the channel, you have the channel gain, but you cannot control the master volume. I don't know if it's useful or not. We'll see. And presets. So Helix has all the presets here. With the older processor, if you don't use a director, you have only 2 presets. So you can use it with a URC3 knob. Now, if you buy a director, you have much more presets. It's like, oh, I don't remember how much is it. It's like 20 or something. It's a ridiculous amount of presets with the director. With the new DSPs with ACO platform, you have more presets as well. Alpine DSP has 6 presets, and all of them are available through the controller. So whatever you changes you do, you just save it, you choose which preset to save it in, and you save it. Now all of these here on the top is exactly the same. If I click on them, it's exactly the same as you have in Helix here, the amplitude of the channel. So it shows, it doesn't show anything now because, yeah, there we go, because it's not selected. But yeah, so it's just on the main EQ window, you have the amplitude, and exactly the same you have with Alpine. Helix shows as well a phase, but I never used it, so I don't really need it. So it doesn't show, it's fine. And what else? I think this is kind of pretty much it. So the biggest concern for me when I just opened the software and I played with it was the channel gain, that it can go only like in increments of 1 dB. But now, since I accidentally discovered that here you can put literally any value you want, then this means that I'm not hindered at all. The only difference is with a sub channel. So you have the channels. Oh, so these channels you can actually rename and mix and match whatever you want. You can choose anything you want. It's not like it's not fixed. So if you can choose whatever you want. So the last ones are the sub channels, and on the sub channels you have, on the regular channels you have the dB attenuation, and on the sub channels you have the sub level. Even here you see it shows dB, 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 and here is a level, because these two channels, not necessarily the last ones, you can choose the first one, it doesn't really matter, like subwoofer here. These channels are controlled with the controller. So I guess this is like a default level of the channel. So, and on Helix DSP, it doesn't matter what you choose, you have the gain. And even on the director, when you choose sub-level, you have it in gain, in dB increments, not in like level. But it's not an issue at all. And let's have a look at the input or side. So in Helix DSP you have input output, where here you have your like physical inputs in the DSP. You have the RCAs or high level inputs, then you have your HEC card or auxiliary inputs, and you have the digital in. And here you can route whichever you choose. So in my system I use only HEC because I'm using a USB HEC card. So you choose this, and then you choose the output, whichever you want. But this is just for the names, so you would have them here displayed on the top correctly. So here you can choose, again, whichever you want from all of these. In Alpine, you just choose this one, and you choose whichever you want the name to be. But the input matrix itself is in options, and it says input mix setting. And here it looks a bit confusing, but in reality is exactly the same as this. So for example, if I choose this, I have auxiliary input, which is my HEC card, left, right, and it goes to the outputs of the DSP A, B, C, D. So for example, my tweet is connected here on A and B, mid-range CD, mid-bass EF, and so on and so on. And here you have exactly the same. You have the RCAs here, so the outputs channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 12. And then you have, for example, this would be exactly the same as aux left, aux right. You have digital left, so in this case it's gonna be like this one, digital left, right, and here exactly the same, left, right, supposed to be like 100, left, right. And for sub channels, for subwoofer, you just mix it, so you do exactly the same as here. You do 50, 50, 50, 50. But here again, I don't know why is it 100. I thought that it should be like 50 and 50, or maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna check the actual electrical RTA out of the RCAs that are coming out. But yeah, it's exactly the same mix. It just looks a bit more confusing than Helix, but in reality it's exactly the same. The only thing that I don't know, what is the difference between passive input and active input? I really don't know, and it's not in the manual mentioned, so I cannot comment on that at all. And I think this is pretty much it about all the differences between Helix software and Alpine software. So just very quickly to summarize, yes, Helix has more functionality. It has like input EQ, it has built-in RTA, it has all pass filters, all that kind of stuff. But those are all the things that I really don't use. So for my particular case, since I'm using a digital signal in the DSP, I don't need any of that. And for my particular case, Alpine is going to do exactly the same as the Helix is doing now. The only difference is going to be inputting EQ bands. So on Helix, it was much faster because I could import everything. And on Alpine, I will have to enter every single band manually. But once EQ is done, the functionality wise is exactly the same, because you have all the same adjustments with the crossovers. Especially you can choose different crossovers, high pass, low pass, for all the drivers. Again, it's not hindered, they're not, you can kind of sync left and right if you want to, but I don't know. Yeah. And I think for me personally, there will be no difference between using a Helix DSP and an Alpine DSP, just because I'm a kind of basic user, I guess. I don't need all pass filters, I don't need central channel, I don't need the differential rear fill. So since I don't need any of those extra features, for me personally, this is gonna be exactly the same as Helix. If you need some of those features, Alpine DSP probably is not gonna be a choice for you. If you need like central channel, if you have a brand new car with central channel, you want differential rear fill, and you want to use the factory inbuilt head unit, then your choice would be a new Helix. For me, if I'm using like an aftermarket source, I don't need any of those extra features. I just want through a front plus sub or whatever. This is gonna be just perfectly enough for me. So I think that's it. I'm gonna cut it here. If you like this video and you want me to do some extra comparisons between literally any kind of software, maybe between like Audison and Helix, or like I don't know, NVX and JL or whatever, put it in the comment. I might do some videos as well. But yeah, I think I'm gonna be happy with this DSP because it literally does everything that I need. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one.